So it definitely appears now that even though Scott's disappeared from the internet for several weeks, he's definitely been working hard on FNAF World.
Yeah, the last teaser we actually got on FNAF World was the Mangle teaser, and ever since then, Scott apparently has been working very hard on this game.
So what's going on, guys? This is Ryan here.
And this is other Ryan here.
And today we actually have a in-depth look at the newest FNAF World teaser images presented both on the FNAF World IndieDB page and also on the FNAFWorld.com website page. Both seem to mirror each other in their extremities, of course, with the IndieDB page definitely showing the colourful side and the FNAFWorld.com website showing the more darker side.
Yeah, Scott's obviously been at work in between the teasers from now to the Mangle teaser that we had.
Definitely. So we'll start this video by looking at the IndieDB page, and then we'll go over and analyze the FNAFWorld.com website teaser image.
So the first image that we're greeted to is the bald boy image that we are seeing here.
Absolutely, but before we actually look at these images individually, we're going to analyze all of them together and find a reoccurring layout so we can analyze the different elements to each of these images.
So in the top left, we have what appears to be the name of the enemy that we are fighting against.
Absolutely, and in the middle here, we can actually see the desired character moves based on the character you obviously have selected, and there is 3 unique movements per character.
The top right is the HP of what we believe to be the characters that we are playing as, and at the top is the person positioned at the top. So in this image, it would be the puppet, and at the bottom, it would be Withered Chica.
Absolutely, and this is just an idea, by the way, guys, because it makes the most sense. Of course, we have the puppet in the background, and then we have this Withered Chica in the foreground. We can also see that the Foxy character appears to be taking damage, and we can see the 3rd HP down. It is the Foxy, and he is the he's the second furthest away from the camera, which would make the 3rd in the list.
And in the background, we seem to have some kind of party theme on the go, which is probably to represent Balloon Boy. Obviously, the BB in this case is Ball Boy, but as we know, in the original, it was, well, supposedly Balloon Boy.
Absolutely. Of course, we can see this kind of party theme going on in the background, and we can definitely see something in honor to Balloon Boy, with the balloons in the background, but these newer characters, of course, named Ball Boy. So, for all we know, maybe the rendition of BB and the abbreviation of that might actually play a good role in the enemies we face within this zone.
Yeah, definitely. Moving on to Battle 2, the image labeled Battle 2, we can see the enemy is actually labeled Chop and Roll, which is probably a reference to Chippers and Sons.
Absolutely, because we can definitely see that the style of this is very similar or esque to Chipper and Sons. And also talking about the background too, we can see that there appears to be trees that have definitely been chopped down. We can only see the stumps, which kind of goes with the lumberjack theme also here. So it seems like these characters are also unique to a lumberjack styled woodland area.
Yeah, definitely. And as we can see around Bonnie, we can see a circle, which is obviously meaning that you have highlighted this character, and that is probably how you know which set of lists is coming from whom.
Exactly. And another thing actually of interest is the fact that we have these numbers on each of these characters, and maybe these might represent a HP boost because these are actually a green color.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Okay, so now we're going to be moving over to the 3rd image, which is actually labeled Battle 3, and we can see an ice-like location with some characters known as Chillax.
If we remember when FNAFWorld.com was actually first created, Scott actually put out 2 soundtracks named Icy Cavern, I believe, and Adventure Theme, and I believe that obviously the Icy Cavern will relate to this image.
Absolutely, it makes the most sense with the ice scene. We can also see in the background we have some trees with snow definitely coating them. It all seems to add up nicely. Okay, so now we're going to be moving over to the next image line, which is actually a party creation screen. Now, something of interest is actually how these characters appear to have been selected. We can see we also have these blue selection icons alongside also these pink ones labeled 1 to 4 for a total of 8 characters being selected.
Yeah, this might be 2 sets of characters that you can select at any point during the game. Maybe when one set dies, you can select the other one to take its place or something like that.
Absolutely, and the idea I had is maybe there's kind of like a checkpoint or some kind of hut that you go in, and then maybe you get the choice to choose a different set of characters to play as, just so you're not always playing as the same ones, and you always have that variation element towards that.
Yeah.
And the final thing which actually backs up the idea of 2 sets of characters is on the right hand side we have these transparent squares, and we actually have 8 of them to be exact, which adds up nicely to the 8 selected characters.
Okay, so the next image that we see is called Chip Select, and me and Brian were a bit confused on this when we first saw it, because I believe when I first saw it, it was like a power-up kind of menu. You select these before or after a battle. Maybe you earn these over time. Obviously, they're labeled different things, like Head Start. Maybe that's what you start off with, and it'll fade out over time. Endless is probably something that you get, and it automatically stays with you for the whole game. And the third one seems to be like an added attack almost.
Yeah, well, they seem to all be organized in different sets, and something interesting I definitely spotted instantly was the fact that at the top we've got these green ones, followed by yellow and then red, and also we've got these dashes to the sides of them. We have 1 on top, 2 in the middle row, and 3 either side on the bottom.
Yeah.
Now, something actually interesting is that I didn't really understand how this was going to exactly entwine with the battle scenarios, but a better look is actually looking at the overworld images, because if we actually analyze these images, we can see we have a HUD design that shows a party, chips, and save. The chips seem to definitely be relating to these overworlds because, of course, if we go back to the chip select, they are also in this 8-bit style as well.
And I believe that this 8-bit little theme was kind of like Final Fantasy VIII, when you actually leave an area, say for a school, you leave the school and you go out into the actual world. It turns into quite a 16-bit kind of thing where you move along the world, and when you enter another area, it goes into a different graphical style. So I believe that maybe that's what it will be.
Absolutely, because originally when I saw this, I wasn't 100% sure how Scott would entwine all of the different elements and kind of merge all of the different levels together. So maybe this is a kind of overworld design, as it's called, to go from one destination to another will actually be a lot nicer. And I think it would work much better rather than walking through all these destinations in like a 3D format, because the format in the actual FNAF World Halloween teaser was kind of satisfying, and following along with that same idea, I think it'll be nice. And a final thing, actually going back to the chip select before we leave it, is that in each of these overworld images, we can definitely see we're playing as Freddy Fazbear, and looking at this chip select screen, we can see we definitely have power-ups unique to Freddy, or maybe even the Nightmare Freddy with the Freddle attack, and I think that alone links us definitely to this character, and it definitely also entwines the fact that these will be used in the overworld scenario. So I don't really think these will be mini games, it'll just be a way of traversing the environment, and it'll be a much more cleaner and concise way of doing so.
And moving on to these actual overworlds themselves, we can see that they are set in different locations. Overworld 1, we can see it's like a barren land almost, with chopped down trees, almost like the lumberjack screen we saw earlier. So maybe the lumberjack battle scene that we saw earlier could relate back to this also.
Exactly, maybe you're wandering around in this style and you'll encounter them. It might be interesting, and it seems to make a lot of sense linking the two together.
Yeah.
So now moving back to the Overworld 2 screen, this one is interesting, and Other Ryan actually picked up some interesting facts that this may be a water zone where you can go from one zone to another.
Yeah, just like in most RPGs, like Pokemon for example, you need certain items to cross certain lands. So maybe what we're seeing here could either represent crossing from one overworld to another, or it could represent completely new overworld entirely. But I don't know if we're going to need the items to actually float across like we are seeing here or not, but it'll be interesting to see if that is the case.
Absolutely, I mean, it's definitely water. We can see the froth being generated behind this object that this Freddy character is standing on, alongside the reflection of some kind of sunlight or a light source, and I think it would make the most sense, you know, maybe this is something you experience later in the game, maybe this is like an item you acquire and then you can traverse to the harder zone, so there's a bit more kind of level nature to it. And actually going on to the third teaser image, that is Overworld 3, we can definitely see this game is going to be incorporating some much more darker connotations too.
Yeah, just like the Halloween DLC, this reminds me of that kind of last world that we're in, with the whole gargoyles with flames coming out of them. Maybe in this location there'll be a bit more eviler creatures that we have to fight up against, and I don't know, maybe it's representing that the game will get darker as it goes on.
Absolutely, because if we remember back to the FNAF World Halloween DLC, we had all sorts of strange characters like the Sangle, or it was hard to pronounce. We had a big debate over how to pronounce it, but we saw these kind of strange like fire-breathing characters and we didn't know what the heck they were, but maybe that was actually a reference to almost what we're going to be seeing in FNAF World, but these guys modeled in full 3D when we're fighting them, and I think that would make the most sense.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And speaking about darkness, if we move over to FNAFworld.com, Scott has once again released a very kind of disturbing little teaser of, it appears to be Balloon Boy's head from his top lip upwards on the floor, looking rather dazed, or I don't even know how to explain that facial expression, to be honest, with the words madness takes many forms underneath.
Exactly. I mean, the first thing we have to remember, guys, this is definitely BB because of course the blue and red striped hat, and it's just interesting that this is teased on FNAFworld.com. It's almost like IndieDB is taking the kind of colourful side and FNAFworld.com is actually introducing the darker elements of this game, and maybe these will somehow be entwined within the FNAF World game. And something Something interesting me and another Ryan actually discussed before is the fact that Scott's being very careful with what information he actually releases in terms of how dark FNAF World's going to be.
Yeah.
Mostly on the IndieDB page, it seems to be quite bright and cheerful, but this FNAF World website page is kind of pushing the idea that it's not going to be all bright and joyful.
Yeah.
There's going to be some darker elements, and you know, if Scott kept them for the actual main game and bang, he just kind of pulled them out on us when we least expected it, I think it would be a very deep shocker to us all, and I think it will make the game more exciting.
Yeah, it'll be pretty awesome. I mean, first thing I thought when I saw this was it could represent a death screen of sorts, but
yes,
thinking back to Mangle, I don't think that could work as a death screen, because that looks more like a suicide than an actual death itself that will caused by another person, maybe a monster.
Exactly, and another point Ryan actually picked up on is the fact that Five Nights at Freddy's is based around the concept that it's kid-friendly toys with a very dark past, and as other Ryan actually said, this may be a direct link to maybe we see it in the bright and colourful time, but maybe in the nighttime or in some zone it gets extremely dark and disturbing.
Yeah, that would be pretty awesome.
So there we have it, guys. That was, of course, analysing the FNAF World teaser images. There has been so much unveiled today. It's pretty exciting with the game just around the corner, coming in 2016 or 2015 at this rate. Who knows? We have a lot of exciting things to discover.
Definitely, if you guys did enjoy this video, why not leave a like rating down below? And if you're new to our channel, why not subscribe for more interesting videos like this and also some other gameplays.
So thank you very much for watching the video, guys. We, of course, hope you did enjoy, and we'll, of course, see you on the next one.
Goodbye, guys.
Want to see even more content from us?
Consider liking and subscribing to ensure you'll see all content in the foreseeable future.
And hey, why not check out our past 2 videos?